The sun bled over the horizon like a dying ember. Wind whispered through the brittle grass, carrying dust and silence in equal measure. Dust Creek, a town forgotten by time, lay still under the weight of another long, lonesome day. And then came the sound, the steady clop of hooves. A lone rider approached, his hat pulled low, his duster coat coated with the red dirt of the plains. His horse, a black stallion named Hollow, moved like a ghost through the fading light. Slow, tense pause. They called him Cole Mercer. Some said he'd been a bounty hunter. Others whispered he was running from something darker, something no bullet could kill. He wasn't looking for trouble, but trouble had a way of finding him. Cole dismounted in front of a saloon. The piano inside faltered when he walked through the batwing doors. Eyes followed him, rough ranchers, half-drunk cowhands, and one sheriff who hadn't smiled in years. Cole nodded once to the barkeep. "Whiskey," he said. The barkeep slid down the counter. That's when he saw her. Sitting by the window, her hands wrapped around a chipped coffee cup, was a woman dressed in faded morning black. Her name was Clara Hayes, the widow of Dust Creek. A year ago, her husband had been shot dead trying to defend their ranch from bandits. Since then, she lived alone at the edge of town, tending to the land no man dared to help her keep. Cole didn't know her story yet, but the way she looked out that window, like she was seeing ghosts, made something twist inside his chest. Slow, emotional pause. He tipped his hat. She didn't look up. That night, the wind howled outside the saloon like a coyote lost to the night. Cole found a place to sleep in the livery stable. The old stable hand, Jed, eyed him curiously. "You riding through, mister?" "Reckon I might stay a while," Cole said, rubbing down his horse. "Town's cursed," Jed muttered. "Bandits took what was left. Sheriff don't do nothing. Folks living scared." Cole's jaw tightened. "Cursed or not, I've seen worse." Short pause. Morning came with dust and gunpowder in the air. A wagon rolled through town, Clara's wagon. Her horse had gone lame near the creek, and she was trying to haul it alone. Cole saw her struggling from across the street. He didn't think twice. He walked over, silent as the wind, and took the reins from her hands. "Mind if I lend a hand, ma'am?" She looked up for the first time, eyes the color of river silt, tired but fierce. "I don't need your help, stranger." "Never said you did," he replied, tightening the harness. "But this wagon ain't moving without it." For a long moment, they just stared, two broken souls measuring each other. Then she gave a faint nod. "Name's Clara," she said softly. "Cole," he answered. By noon, the wagon was fixed, and they rode together toward her ranch, a lonely house standing against the wind like an old memory refusing to fade. She offered him water. He offered silence. Sometimes that's all people need. But something hung in the air, unspoken, fragile. When the sky turned gold, Cole rode back toward town. Clara watched him go. That night, she stood by her porch, listening to the coyotes cry. Somewhere inside her chest, something began to stir again, something she thought had died with her husband. The next evening, shots rang out in town. Cole was the first to draw. 3 men, the Carter gang, had come back to Dust Creek, drunk on whiskey and cruelty. One of them grabbed the barkeep by the collar. Another fired into the ceiling. The third smirked when he saw Cole. "Well, well," he sneered. "Ain't every day we get a new gun in town." Cole stood, calm as stone. "Put the gun down," he said quietly. The man laughed. A moment later, bang. The outlaw fell dead, the echo rolling across the saloon. Cole holstered his revolver without a word. The other 2 ran for the door. The sheriff finally staggered out of his office. "Damn it, Mercer. You got no idea who you just shot." Cole stared. "Looks like a man who needed shooting. That was Jeb Carter. His brothers'll come for you. And for Dust Creek." Slow, tense pause. Outside, thunder rumbled. Inside, every man felt the shift. A storm was coming. 3 nights later, Clara found Cole at the stables. "You shouldn't have done that," she said, voice trembling. "Shouldn't have let him kill a man for fun either," he replied. "You don't understand," she whispered. "They killed my husband, Cole. The Carters. They own fear in this town. Cole's eyes darkened. Then I reckon it's time fear found new owners. Pause for drama. Their eyes met under the flickering lantern. For the first time, she saw it. The pain behind his quiet. "Why are you really here?" she asked. He looked away. "Looking for peace," he said softly. "But it keeps moving faster than I can ride." Slow, emotional pause. Rain began to fall, cold and heavy. And somewhere between thunder and silence, she reached out and touched his hand. Just once. The next morning, Dust Creek woke to a sky painted with gun smoke. Word spread fast. The Carter gang was coming. 20 men. Cole loaded his rifle and stood by Clara's porch. "Get inside," he said. "I won't hide." She shot back. He almost smiled. "Didn't think you would." Slow pause. As the first riders appeared on the ridge, dust swirling behind them, Cole tipped his hat. "Looks like it's time to pay some debts." Clara watched from the doorway, heart pounding, the memory of her husband's death flickering like firelight in her eyes. Cole stepped forward, rifle steady, coat whipping in the wind. The outlaws charged. Gunfire split the dawn, and by the time the smoke cleared, Cole Mercer was gone. Long, dramatic pause. Only his hat lay in the dust, and Clara's scream echoed through the empty plains. 3 days. That's how long Clara sat by the window, watching the horizon for a man who never came. Rain had turned the dirt to mud. Dust Creek buried its dead, and the world moved on, as it always did. But one evening, when the sun burned low and the wind shifted from the west, she heard it, the sound of hooves. Pause for drama. She ran to the porch, heart hammering, and there he was, bleeding, bruised, but alive. Cole Mercer, dragging himself from the saddle. "Thought you were dead," she whispered, tears mixing with rain. "Reckon death changed his mind," he rasped. She helped him inside, patching the bullet wound in his shoulder. "You could have left," she said. "Could have," he murmured. "But Dust Creek still breathes. And so do you." That night, under the storm's roar, she stayed by his side. For the first time in a long time, she wasn't a widow. She was a woman alive, trembling and brave. Days passed. Cole healed slow, but his resolve didn't. The Carters weren't finished. They wanted the land, Clara's ranch, the last piece her husband had fought to keep. Cole stood by her fence one morning, looking at the horizon. "Your husband died for this land," he said. "Reckon it's time someone finished what he started." She stepped beside him. "Then we fight. Together." The night before the showdown, they sat by the campfire outside her home. The stars hung low, and the air smelled of mesquite and smoke. "Cole," she whispered, "what did you lose before you came here?" He stared into the flames. "My wife," he said quietly, "and a little boy. Bandits took them when I was gone on a bounty. Never saw their faces again." Slow, emotional pause. Clara reached across the firelight, touching his hand again, this time, not in comfort, but in understanding. "I'm sorry," she said. He nodded. "Ain't your fault. Just the way life burns some of us hotter than others." The fire crackled between them, glowing like the last ember of something worth saving. Dawn came red and merciless. The Carters rode in again, 10 men this time, guns ready. Cole and Clara waited behind the corral fence. No fear, just resolve. The gunfight tore through the morning, smoke, dust, the ring of steel and thunder. Cole fought like a man possessed, his rifle roaring in rhythm with his heart. Clara took cover, firing once, striking the leader's arm. When it was over, the plains were quiet again. The Carters were gone, and Dust Creek finally free. Cole dropped his rifle, breathing heavy. Clara ran to him. "You're hurt," she said. He smiled faintly. "Just grazed. Reckon I'll live." She pressed her forehead to his, and in that quiet moment, beneath the endless western sky, the world felt new again. Slow, emotional pause. Weeks passed. Cole stayed to rebuild what was broken, the fences, the barn, the woman's heart he never meant to heal. But the prairie doesn't hold men like him for long. When the moon rose silver, and the wind whispered his name, he knew it was time to ride. He saddled Hollow one last time. Clara stood by the gate. "You're leaving," she said softly. He nodded. Ain't much of a settlin' man, Clara. Never was. Tears welled at her eyes. Then promise me this, wherever you ride, remember Dust Creek. He smiled, tired, tender. Darlin', I'll remember the woman who made it home. Pause for drama. He leaned down, kissed her once, slow and sure, then turned his horse toward the horizon. As the sun rose over the plains, his shadow faded into gold. And Dust Creek lived again. But somewhere out there, beneath the endless western sky, a lone rider still carries the memory of a woman who taught him love ain't something you find. It's something you fight for. Slow emotional fade. But the prairie wind still whispers their names.